How does good punctuation help you become a better writer? Imagine that you are a 5th grade student staring at your teacher. She is droning on about commas and dashes and quote marks, and you're thinking, who cares? Grammar, spelling, and punctuation can mark the difference between a good writer and a not so good one. In this video, I focus on the importance of punctuation for good writing. Do you wonder if students would view punctuation differently if teachers had presented it as an aid to communication? Imagine if a teacher said, "Do you want people to know what you mean? You must learn how to put commas in the right places." She might also have asked, "Do you want to get a good job? Learn punctuation." You might be thinking, but how many people really know the rules of punctuation? I can't be the only one who slept through that part of English. The misspelled and poorly punctuated emails I get every day from allegedly intelligent people confirm that classes on grammar and punctuation, if marketed, could be the best sleeping aid around. However, the fact that a lot of people don't punctuate correctly doesn't mean that you can breathe a sigh of relief. You're not a lot of people. You're someone who wants to become a better writer. More businesses want employees with good grammatical skills. People who read grammatically inaccurate prose may not know exactly what's wrong, but they often know that something is off. This can make them uneasy or suspicious, which distracts from the message the writer is trying to convey. Business people know this. The ability to communicate by websites and email newsletters and blogs and other forms of writing has raised the bar for job applicants. You may know everything in the world about your occupation or your profession, but if you can't express it accurately, you may lose a job to someone with less knowledge but better skills. Businesses want good writers. To make matters worse for the grammatically uneducated, the person in human resources who reads your job application may reject you for a typo or a punctuation error. I know this from experience because I've done it. As the owner of a legal nurse consulting business, I had a core of subcontractors who worked as expert witnesses. Part of their work involved writing reports on various medical legal cases. These reports went to the lawyers who hired our expert for the case. The opposing lawyer saw it. The judge saw it. Any grammatical inaccuracies in these reports reflected on me and my firm. They could cause anyone who read them to ask themselves, if the expert could not get the grammar and punctuation correct, what about the facts? Do you understand why I wouldn't hire people whose applications had grammatical errors? Make friends with the comma. This video is not a manual on punctuation. At the end of this series, I'll make some specific suggestions for improving your skills in all technical aspects of writing. Here I'm going to give some examples of comma usage and misusage to show why punctuation is so important. I've included here a couple of my favorite examples of why the comma matters. Listen to this. Woman, comma, without her man, comma, is nothing. Woman, comma, without her, comma, man is nothing. Here's another popular example. Let's eat, comma, grandma. Let's eat grandma. I believe this makes the case for commas, but if you still aren't convinced, here's a true story about how the absence of a comma cost a company $10 million. What is the Oxford comma? First of all, this is a serial comma, as in X, comma, Y, comma, and Z. The comma placement helps avoid confusion. In fairness, I need to say that not everyone agrees with this rule. In the Associated Press style used in the newspapers, the comma between the last two items is omitted. However, that doesn't make this right. Here are two examples of how leaving out that last comma leads to confusion. Among those interviewed were Merrill Haggard's two ex-wives, comma, Chris Christopherson and Robert Duvall. Oh, really? The speaker is survived by his two children, comma, a monkey and a parrot. The Oxford comma is also used to separate longer phrases in a sentence. This is incorrect. Before I left the house, comma, I checked that the stove was off, comma, made sure the lights were out, and looked for my key. This is correct. Before I left the house, comma, I checked to make sure that the stove was off, comma, made sure the lights were out, comma, and looked for my key. The sentence in this correct form is not only technically correct according to Oxford comma standards, but it has another quality. Those who read well out loud insert a brief pause after a comma. This sets each item apart, and that makes the sentence easier for the listener to absorb. The information in it breaks down like this. Before I left the house provides the when and the where. It creates the setting. Following it comes the sequence of actions. The comma gives each of these equal importance and makes it clear that they are separate actions. The other important element of this comma usage is that it gives the sentence a certain flow and rhythm which pleases the ear. We humans love music for many reasons, and one aspect is that its flow and rhythm soothe us. When we read, we're saying the words to ourselves, and we can get that same kind of soothing effect. Following this one simple punctuation rule will improve your writing. I don't understand why anyone doesn't want to use the Oxford comma. No one has ever suffered finger fatigue from typing one more comma, and it makes an orderly, easy to understand list. Using the Oxford comma system also helps to avoid costly lawsuits. The missing Oxford comma caused a lawsuit. In 2014, 3 truck drivers sued Oakhurst Dairy in Maine for the loss of 4 years' worth of overtime pay. Maine law requires that workers get time and a half pay for each hour worked over 40 hours. With these exceptions, the canning, comma, processing, comma, preserving, comma, freezing, comma, drying, comma, marketing, comma, storing, comma, packing for shipment or distribution of 1. Agricultural produce, 2. Meat and fish products, and 3. Perishable foods. The court ruled that the lack of a comma between shipment and or made it unclear whether the law exempted the distribution of the 3 categories that followed, or if it exempted packing for the shipment or distribution of them. The dairy company argued that the spirit of the law intended that packing for shipment and distribution as 2 separate exempt activities. The drivers stuck to the letter of the law, which said that without that Oxford comma, one could read the sentence to exclude only packing, whether it was packing for shipment or packing for distribution. Distribution by itself in this case would not be exempt. The judge decided the case agreed with the drivers. The judge said specifically if that exemption used a serial comma to mark off the end of the activities in the list, then the exemption would clearly encompass an activity that the drivers perform. And in that event, the drivers would plainly fall within the exemption and thus outside the overtime law's protection. But as it happens, there is no serial comma to be found in the exemption's list of activities, thus leading to this dispute over whether the drivers fall within the exemption of the overtime law or not. In February 2018, Oakhurst Dairy agreed to pay $10 million to the drivers. Commas matter. If you've written a book and need a professional editor to make sure that all your commas are in place, as well as all the other parts of the punctuation that make up good grammar, contact me. I'd love to help. You can reach me through my contact form at patiyer.com.